It's Monday, September 30th, and I'm your host, Paula Hersey. On today's show, we learn more about the upcoming 2020 census and find out more about the redevelopment of a shopping plaza on Route 132. Now for a look at municipal and legislative notes. The Cape Cod Commission will soon begin work to create a model coastal resiliency bylaw that sets out strategies to mitigate and adapt to coastal changes. Adoption of these strategies will offer residents of Cape Cod increased protection from threats such as sea level rise and storm surge. On Wednesday, September 25th, the Baker-Polito administration announced $12.9 million in grants to protect and conserve land and natural resources, create and restore parks, improve land use within the Commonwealth, and increase resilience to climate change. The Cape Cod Commission received $1,045,200 through the Planning Assistance Grant program to fund the development of a model coastal resiliency bylaw. Health clinics, fire departments, schools, even roads and highways. The census can shape many different aspects of your community. We take a deep dive with Town Clerk Ann Quirk to why your response matters to Census 2020. The complete count for Census 2020 is one of the most important things that a community can do. From the federal right down to the local level, taking the number of people that are here in our communities is really important in so many different ways. So tell us a little bit about what you're learning through the Complete Count Committee for Census 2020.
The federal government bases the monies that they give each state on the numbers of people that you have. Because based on the numbers of people, it could be more kids in the schools, it could be more people who have retired and they need different services, it could be the people who are looking to buy houses. It's a huge, it's all across every age of every person that lives here. And the big part about this is the state of Massachusetts is looking at $22 billion that could come to us.
Just from the counting of the census?
Exactly.
Okay, so let's make this clarification for residents. There's two censuses, one that happens federally every 10 years, and there's another one that goes out once a year. So just briefly, that town census is for?
It's for our voter registration to make sure that you're still living in the same location so that my voter list is complete and accurate. The other piece of it is for our local schools, we can let them know how many children we can expect to come into the school system in any given year.
Okay. So coming back to the federal, you stated a very large number of $22 billion, but we can break this down into our senior center and money for our community senior center, but we can also break it down region-wide as well.
Absolutely. Don't forget that all of us have representatives from different areas, and the Complete Count Committee for us is by Barnstable County. So what we're looking at a county level is, gee, how many representatives do we need? How many senators do we need? Will those numbers change? And as those numbers grow or change or decrease, it moves our voting lines for who we can vote for.
Right, and this actually even comes right down in granular into the local level of changing precinct lines as well.
Absolutely.
Did that happen recently in 2013?
Actually, it did. We had to have all 13 town councilors had to be up for an election in that 1 year because all of the precincts lines changed. So they moved a little bit, and that's all it takes. But for your town councilor, you want to be able to vote for your town councilor.
Right. So as we look, obviously federal funding is a big piece of this census. School funding, voting for representatives and region. This whole count, though, a complete count, what does that really mean, that you want a complete count?
A complete count means all of the people. It doesn't, the people who will respond sometimes to a census will leave children off. We need to know about the children. We have a lot of folks that are homeless here. We still want to count them because they're still getting services through the town of Barnstable. There are folks that are on some kind of aid. That information is important to us too. So we want everyone, whether you're here 6 or 8 months out of the year, or are you here, you know, part-time. What is your, when are you here? And when are you using these facilities?
So let's talk a little bit about some of those demographics. You've touched on the homeless population here on Cape Cod, but also those transient residents who may spend a portion of their year someplace else, or perhaps a college student. How is that handled in the census?
You know, that's a good question. The college students that do go away to school, they are capturing that information as well at the college level, but the parents are probably keeping that person also on the census because they're only there for a portion of the year and then they're home again. Same is true of those folks that are snowbirds. Where do they consider their home? Do they consider their home here on the Cape, or do they consider their home in Florida or the Carolinas or wherever they are? We need to know that. We need to try and capture that information.
Right. So what's a good rule of thumb, especially for our snowbirds out there, of determining where they're living at any given time within the year?
We ask them to tell us what address do you use for the IRS when you do your tax return, because that's the address then that we would consider your full-time address.
Right. So we've touched upon our homeless populations and school-age children and college students. What other populations seem to be undercounted?
Well, we have an awful lot of immigrants on the Cape, and they're out there working. They're a viable part of our community. And they need to know that this information is just for census purposes. It doesn't go anyplace else. It is, a matter of fact, the census that is gained, the information that's gained on a personal level is just all put together in a big pot so that we can look at the demographics, and we're not looking at any one individual. In 72 years, that information will be made available, so those folks that are out there doing genealogy, they can find this information out about their parents or their grandparents or whomever.
Right. So we want to reiterate that all of the census, all the questions that are on there are held in the highest confidentiality. None of this information is made public in any way until after 72 years?
Absolutely. And the people that do the census have to sign a confidentiality agreement. They realize they could be prosecuted, and they keep that information very, very safe.
Right. So now we're at the census. There's a full timeline of this. So let's really delineate for our residents when they can expect to be contacted about the census.
The first mailing should go out about mid-March. It's going to be a letter form, I believe, to all the people in the town of Barnstable, or actually everywhere in the United States. It's supposed to be a concerted effort all the way across the United States. The address that we have for your voter registration information, that's the address they're going to use. So we're hoping that everyone's address for mailing is up to date. Beyond that, if you don't respond, and you can respond in more than one way, if you don't respond, then you're going to get a postcard in 2 weeks. And then after that, if you don't respond, you're going to get one more mailing. And if they don't hear back from you at the Census Bureau, they're going to send someone out to see you.
So let's just back up a little bit. The census itself can be in 3 different formats. So I believe I heard it was online, yay. Paper format, if you love to fill in the bubbles. And then the last one was by phone.
Yes, because they have 12 different languages being spoken by phone, so that someone who doesn't understand the English language, they can actually make a phone call and talk to someone who can speak Portuguese or Russian or whatever and help them through it.
Right. So 3 different ways, multiple touch points for alerting of the census is now being taken. And Census Day is when?
April 1st.
So April 1st, which sometimes has another connotation of April Fools, but this really is a fool's errand if you don't fill out the census.
Correct. We're trying to make sure that everyone understands that no one is going to, on the phone, no one's going to ask you for money, no one's going to ask you social security number, no one's going to ask you for bank accounts. All we need is the information that will help us to complete the census for 2020.
Right, so we can reiterate that there's no monetary ask at this. There is absolutely no discerning information about the person itself. There's no social security numbers, there's no, father's last name, mother's last name, any of that information as well. This is a very general survey that just looking for information for demographics.
Absolutely.
Okay, so when does the person come to your house, and should we expect them at any time of the day?
Actually, they can come to your house between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. They will have a lanyard with a picture of them and the logo for the Census 2020. They'll also have a bag with them that has the Census 2020 on it, and inside the bag will be a laptop, so they could actually sit down with you and do everything on a laptop. But all of those things will have the Census 2020 logo on them.
Right. Now, we do have a population that might be a little scared of opening that door. Is there a safeguard with that? Can they call somebody if they think that maybe they don't have a census person in their home?
Absolutely. The person standing outside your house can give you a telephone number to call to speak to their particular supervisor. There's also numbers that'll be online that you can call to the centralized information for Census Bureau, and they will give you the information. So there's a bunch of different ways, and they have to all be vetted with the police department. So it's a safeguard all the way around.
It's a safeguard all the way around. So one, you'll get information about when the census is open and how to take either the phone, the paper, or the online version of the census. If you don't fill out that or didn't get one, it's probably because your address hasn't been updated. And then once we kind of like come into this season, so March is really, and it seems that we're talking about it very early, but once March hits, there's a whole lot of information that can be gained from the census. They have so many vehicles of information now through social media.
Yes, absolutely, and they're going to be updating everything as we go forward.
What is the single most important thing that you want residents to remember about Census 2020?
It's so important for everyone to be counted. It's just so important, and it falls on everything that we have here in this beautiful community that we live in. We're so fortunate to be here, but we need to make sure that we're getting everything that we possibly can for the life that everybody wants to lead here.
Census 2020, be counted. After almost a decade into their management of Cape Town Plaza on Route 132, WS Development, Barnstable Municipal Airport, and the town of Barnstable have signed a new 49-year lease to redevelop the shopping center.
I recall President Reagan once said, "Great things can happen when nobody cares who gets the credit," or something along those lines. And this was a very, very significant team effort throughout the town. And just to run down town leadership, town of Barnstable leadership, airport staff, WS Development, making Airport and WS Development for a 49-year lease for the 27-acre parcel commonly known as Cape Town Plaza, but soon to be known as WS Landing at Hyannis. It's a great, momentous event.
I just have such a vivid memory of speaking with 3 different airport managers, speaking with 25 different airport individuals, speaking with 3 different managers in our town, all about this issue, and the only one constant was WS. So for that, I'm very grateful. What we had is we had a buyer come into town, take over the lease at a time when it was positioning itself to do good and to make the next run at the property. That's a commitment in itself. But what we saw during that time was somebody having to understand how the municipality works and work with us and bear with us through the process. We changed 3 managers. We had 3 airport managers. We had several people on the committee, but it was always a discussion, and there was always a person, and it was always identified as WS. So the consistency deserves due recognition by WS.
This has been under discussion, I think, the entire time I've been here in one form or another. What was exciting about what occurred here, besides the effort of leadership, our council and our commission, thank you both, and the many managers who have been involved with these efforts, we kind of got focused right in on where we wanted to go. We came together, we had strong leadership, we had a clear vision of what the objective was, and with talented people like formerly Bud and now Katie and Matt and Andy and David and Joanna and Mark and you know, others from our legal staff, Ruth and Charlie, we were able to deliver this product. And as Jim has said, you know, WS was always at the table as a partner, strong in their commitment to the town of Barnstable, and that's greatly appreciated. And we look forward to working with you as we move forward on this and possibly other opportunities. So thank you all for your leadership, and thanks staff, great job.
The property is commonly known as Cape Town Plaza. The airport owns, it's about 27 acres that the airport actually owns and manages the acreage. It belongs to the airport, but we're also an entity of the town of Barnstable, so we're an enterprise fund in the town of Barnstable. So when we started to look at the property and we knew that the lease was coming up, it was expiring, we said we should really go out for an RFP for the property and see what type of development could actually occur on that parcel. So we did that back in October 2017. We started writing a draft RFP, which is a request for proposal, to entice any developers that would like to further develop that property and enhance the property. Basically, that process took from October until April of 2018. By April of 2018, we had a bid out on the street. WS Development was one of the bidders. That we had 2 bidders. WS Development was the bidder that came in with the proposal that met all the needs of the RFP. And by December of 2018, we had chosen WS Development to be the future developer of what's now known as Cape Town Plaza, but soon to be known as the Landing at Hyannis.
Well, we are deep believers in the Cape and in Barnstable in particular. We've owned this asset for 10 years. We understand the importance of it to the town. It's certainly very important to us. We have a legacy of working with communities all across New England in either building from the ground up or reinvesting in assets that we've acquired, and we just think it's the heart of the Cape. It's a very important piece of real estate. It's sorely in need of reinvestment, and we just look forward greatly to working with the town and pouring both capital and sweat into making it great.
I think really the next steps are squarely with WS Development and their team as they start to envision what they want to do on that property. You know, as the landlord of the property, really through the agreements that we made with WS, and one of the largest reasons that we chose WS is for their ability to create a sense of space wherever they go to create something that's really true and unique to the environment that they're in and to cater to the community that they're serving. And, you know, that was one of the biggest aspects of the proposal that we looked at, that we said, you know, WS Development is definitely the one to do that. So really now the onus is on WS to start working with the town and with other entities that they'll need to work with locally and statewide to be able to develop that property.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We've begun a planning process. Part of the RFP was to put forward a plan. We will refine that. We'll be working with the community, with both the Airport Commission and especially with local boards to seek approvals. We have existing tenants in the center who still have rights to be there, and so it will take a little longer, unfortunately, than we would like. The difference being, if we had a piece of raw land, we could get going right away. But we will be in a planning and entitlements process, speaking with lots of prospective tenants to try to bring the best tenants we can to the site over the course of the next months and actually a few years.
Where the airport, from the airport itself, the whole experience of working with WS Development, you know, working with the town initially as a town entity and getting all of the documentation that we need to proceed forward with putting this out to bid. And then getting our proposals back from WS Development and other entities that were interested, and just really going through the evaluations from top to bottom. And, you know, what it actually developed in was a very unique and quite nice partnership with WS Development, and the airport itself is really looking forward to that partnership. And, you know, we're part of the fabric of the community, and not only from an aviation transportation standpoint, we're the community. We're providing a service to the community, and WS knows that. They do that wherever they are, and it was just the right fit, and it made sense.
Yeah, I would echo. Thank you, Katie. I would echo what Katie said. We often come into a community already with ownership of a piece of land, and we begin working with that community. This has been almost backwards. We've spent a decade working with a community to get to know people, to build relationships, and the partnership between my company and with the airport and also with the town has been really remarkable. People have worked exceedingly hard to get to this point in time. The RFP process, the lease negotiation process, the planning process, the town and the Airport Commission have been incredibly thoughtful about our proposal. We've gotten really good feedback from them. So it's been a journey that will continue. And it's nice to be traveling with partners you like doing business with. It's really been a pleasure.
Yes, I've been on the commission now for over 20 years, and as many people said earlier today, the town council president, Jim Crocker, et cetera, this has been a subject of discussion and consternation now for decades. And I guess I've been here long enough to see a lot of it. The team effort was just superb, and our commission, you know, if this were a private corporation, we'd be the board of directors. Katie would be the CEO and on down, but the commission, airport management, town management, and the other people that I mentioned earlier, it truly was a magnificent team effort, and the result is today, the 30th of July, 2019. We're happy. This is a great day for our airport and the town of Barnstable as a whole. Everybody should be thrilled to no end.
Up next, things to do, places to go, and people to meet. Ready to get outside and enjoy all fall has to offer? Head on over to the Barnstable Adult Community Center's website to check out their new walking series and archery courses. www.townofbarnstable.us/senior-services. Comments, suggestions, accolades, connect with us on Facebook, email us, or send us an old-fashioned note by carrier pigeon. Channel 18 works for you. I'm Paula Hersey, and thank you for watching Barnstable Today.